Why are some of the foods Americans eat every single day completely banned in Europe? Right now, there are hundreds of grocery items sitting on Walmart shelves that look familiar, affordable, and convenient. Yet they contain chemicals strictly banned in the European Union because of serious health risks. These are not exotic foods. They are the same products you've been putting on the dinner table every week, maybe even every day. But in Europe, they're not allowed since they contain substances that can cause cancer, damage the nervous system, disrupt hormones, or harm the heart. So why are Americans still eating them? In this video, you'll find out about 6 incredibly common foods at Walmart that Europe has completely banned for containing toxic chemicals. And what you are about to hear may make you take a second look at everything sitting in your own kitchen. Number 1, great value instant mashed potatoes. Instant mashed potatoes. Who hasn't had them before? Just add hot water, stir a little salt and pepper, and suddenly you've got a warm side dish for barbecue roasted chicken, or even a quick dinner with a pat of butter. For many older folks living alone or families struggling to stretch every dollar in today's cost of living crisis, great value instant mashed potatoes. Walmart's private label has become an irreplaceable option. The problem is this: what you thought was just convenient potatoes actually contains ingredients that Europe banned from food a long time ago. On the label, you'll find 2 synthetic preservatives used to keep the color and flavor stable over time. In the United States, they're still allowed in limited amounts. But across Europe, countries like France, Germany, and the Netherlands have classified them as endocrine disruptors, cell-damaging agents, and linked them to tumor growth in lab studies. And this is no longer theoretical. In the European Union, these substances have been completely removed from packaged foods. You won't find a single box of mashed potatoes with them. Meanwhile, in America, they sit comfortably on the shelf and probably in your pantry right now. So ask yourself why such a huge difference in how governments define food safety. Is Europe too strict? Or has the American system become far too lenient? What makes this even more troubling is that it's often middle-aged consumers, the very people who carry this country through recessions, wars, and inflation, who are eating these questionable products the most. Not because they don't know better, but because they trust. They trust the big brand. They trust that cheap still means safe. They trust what is called the American standard. But reality is starting to show that standard is cracking. You know what's even worse? Many companies produce the same product in 2 versions. A clean, controversy-free one for Europe, and another outdated version with all the banned additives for the American market. So if you've ever thought it's just instant mashed potatoes, what's the harm? Maybe it's time to ask yourself, are you really saving a few minutes of cooking and a couple bucks at checkout? Or are you quietly paying the price with your long-term health? Number 2, beef without ractopamine. Have you ever stood at the Walmart meat counter, picked up a pack of fresh beef, and looked at the label, price, expiration date, weight? But have you ever noticed the words, ractopamine free? If you haven't, you're not alone. The truth is, not all beef in America contains ractopamine. Some brands have voluntarily removed it and clearly marked their packaging so shoppers feel safe. But many mainstream beef products, especially those without a ractopamine-free label, could come from supply chains where this growth additive was used. And here's the catch. If it doesn't say it, you really don't know. Ractopamine is a drug given to livestock to speed up muscle growth. It makes cattle gain weight faster, producing leaner meat that looks more appealing in the store. In the United States, the FDA still allows it under controlled levels. But in the European Union, China, Russia, and more than 150 other countries, ractopamine has been completely banned from food because of its potential effects on heart rhythm, the nervous system, and even behavior. So what happens if you regularly eat beef that doesn't say ractopamine free? The answer is simple: you can't be sure what you're eating. Unlike Europe, where strict labeling and residue testing are the rule in America, the burden is almost entirely on the consumer. Does Walmart sell beef that's ractopamine free? Yes. But if you don't know to look for it, chances are you'll end up with a package that isn't clearly labeled, and nobody is required to warn you. The real concern isn't just the health risk, it's the sense that you're caught in a game where you don't know the rules. Countless middle-aged Americans still trust domestic products, still believe in the American standard. They buy beef from Walmart because it's convenient, familiar, and affordable. But when they learn that the very food they've trusted for years might contain something over half the world has already rejected, that old sense of reassurance starts to feel like doubt. Why aren't companies required to label this more clearly? Why can something rejected by the EU still end up on American shelves? And worst of all, why should American shoppers pay extra just to avoid a chemical that other countries no longer worry about? Nobody is saying all Walmart beef is bad. What you need to remember is this: if a product doesn't say ractopamine free, you cannot be certain of what's inside. If you always believed that red meat was natural, unprocessed, chemical-free, maybe now is the time to read the label a little closer. Not because someone wants to scare you, but because you deserve to know what you're eating, and you deserve the right to choose with clarity. Number 3, stovetop stuffing. Have you ever thought that a dish tied to family memories, like stuffing at every holiday dinner, could actually be on the banned list in Europe? For Americans, stovetop stuffing is almost iconic. One small box, a few quick steps, and suddenly you have that savory stuffing next to roasted chicken or a golden turkey. It is tradition, it is family. It is something middle-aged Americans have grown up with for decades. What you probably didn't expect is this: in Europe, a product made with the same formula would not be allowed on store shelves. Why not? Because of taste. But because in the production of box stuffing, manufacturers often rely on synthetic additives to preserve color, stabilize flavor, and extend shelf life. These are ingredients still legal in the United States, yet in Europe they've been flagged as unsafe due to risks of hormone disruption, neurological effects, chronic inflammation, and even links to metabolic disorders. Europe didn't come to that decision on a whim. They have an entire independent review system with hundreds of studies from multiple countries. When there is evidence that an ingredient could pose long-term risks to human health, especially for children and seniors, their policy is crystal clear: no compromise. Which raises the question, why isn't it the same in America? While products like stovetop stuffing sit front and center in American supermarkets in France or Germany, you won't find anything identical unless the entire recipe has been reformulated. There is no sell it as it is. There is no trade safety for convenience. That's the difference in how consumer protection is viewed. And here's the paradox. Many American companies, when exporting to Europe, adjust their recipes, remove the controversial additives, and comply with stricter rules. They can do it. But once back home in the United States, where consumers still trust them, the old formula stays quietly stocked on the shelves. No warning, no transparency, no accountability. The dish you once thought was easy to make, easy to enjoy, easy to store, has now become a question mark about safety. Not because you don't cook from scratch, not because you don't read labels, but because the system allows these products to exist in silence. And for middle-aged Americans, the ones holding on to a taste of tradition in the age of industrialized meals, finding out that their beloved stuffing contains additives banned across developed nations isn't just a health concern. It is the disappointment of a generation pushed behind profit. You may still choose to buy stovetop, but at least now you know if you were in Europe, you wouldn't even have the chance to buy it in this form. Number 4, Little Debbie Swiss rolls. Who hasn't had a Swiss roll? A soft sponge cake wrapped around sweet, gooey white cream covered in a shiny layer of chocolate. For many people, Little Debbie is part of childhood, tucked into a lunchbox or given as a weekend treat for the kids. But behind that picture-perfect sweetness lies something European consumers are never allowed to eat: a cocktail of artificial colors, texture enhancers, and freshness-preserving additives, some of which have been permanently banned from food in the EU. What makes this more alarming is that Swiss rolls are most popular among children and older adults, the two groups most vulnerable to chemical exposure. So why did Europe put its foot down? It comes down to the artificial dyes and hydrogenated oils in the ingredients. Some of the food dyes used in these cakes were linked by independent studies in the UK and Norway to hyperactivity, attention problems, and behavioral issues in children. Even though the debate over the exact level of risk continues, the European Union applied a strict precautionary principle. If there is risk, it does not belong in the human body. On top of that, the creamy white filling inside Swiss rolls is stabilized with synthetic emulsifiers. Some of these are also on Europe's banned or tightly restricted lists. because of their potential to trigger chronic inflammation and digestive problems. Which means a cake that looks harmless, sweet and fun, contains ingredients that Europe's food safety system refuses to allow in public products. And in America, no warning labels, no requirement for reformulation, and certainly no rule stopping manufacturers from marketing these cakes directly to children, students, or lower-income families. In fact, products like Little Debbie Swiss rolls are usually placed on middle shelves right at a child's eye level, often next to pre-packed school lunches. That's no accident. And the normalization of these artificially sweet treats is part of the reason so many families stop questioning them at checkout. Remember when you were a kid and your mom wouldn't let you eat dessert before dinner? Imagine if she had known that those same cakes also contained ingredients banned internationally. She wouldn't just say no, she would have snatched them right out of your hands. The saddest part, it's not the cake itself. It's the fact that so many people bought it with good intentions, wanting to bring a little joy to their kids or grandkids, but unknowingly became part of a food system that lacks transparency. If you still toss Swiss rolls into your shopping cart every week now, is the time to read the ingredients more carefully. Because if this product can't sit on store shelves in Germany or Sweden, it probably shouldn't be showing up so often in your family's lunchbox. Number 5, Skittles Original Candy. Have you ever ripped open a pack of Skittles, grabbed a handful of colorful little candies, and thought, this tastes like childhood? For many Americans, Skittles are tied to happy memories. Halloween birthdays, movie nights, or just a quick stop at a gas station. Then came the lawsuit. Last year, a California resident sued the company that makes Skittles, claiming the candy contains something Europe has long since banned: titanium dioxide, a whitening agent that gives the candy its shiny look. This ingredient is nothing new in the food industry. What shook the public, though, was the contrast. While the European Union officially banned titanium dioxide from food in 2022, it is still legal in the United States on the grounds that there is not yet enough evidence to prove serious harm. Sounds reasonable, right? But if more than 20 developed nations have already said no, do you think they are overreacting, or do you think they are being cautious for the rest of the world? Titanium dioxide has no flavor, no scent, and no nutritional value. It does only one thing: it makes the candy look prettier. So which matters more, eye-catching colors or a digestive system that isn't slowly storing up nanoparticles of metal? And here's the thing. Skittles aren't hidden away on some obscure shelf. They're displayed right at the checkout line within easy reach of kids, right where adults grab impulse buys. And for years, not a single warning about coloring agents or titanium dioxide has appeared on the package. When the lawsuit hit the news, people were stunned. Not just by the presence of this chemical in such a popular product, but by the realization that we had been eating it for decades without knowing. For middle-aged Americans, the ones who taught their kids and grandkids how to eat healthy, this discovery felt like a slap in the face. Not because they were fooled once, but because they trusted something that had been allowed to sit in America's food system for far too long. Since the lawsuit, there have been calls to remove titanium dioxide from food, but as of now, it is still on the ingredient list of Skittles sold in the United States. So what do you think when a candy that is considered unsafe to sell in Europe is still considered good enough for American kids to eat every day? This is no longer just about a piece of candy. It is about double standards, about the way food corporations treat American consumers as less informed, more lenient, and less likely to ask questions. A Skittle may taste sweet, but the truth behind it is anything but. Number 6. Sundrop Citrus Soda. Back in the 70s and 80s, you could easily spot a cold bottle of Sundrop in your fridge or in a cooler at a small-town food truck. That bright yellow color and sweet tart taste were once the signature of summer. But there was something else inside that bottle of soda, something that hasn't changed to this day. An artificial dye called Yellow No5. In the US, this dye is still commonly used in lemon lime sodas, and Sundrop is one of the clearest examples. But in Europe, things aren't that simple. Many EU countries haven't outright banned Yellow 5, but they do require manufacturers to put warning labels on products containing it. In the UK, anything with Yellow 5 carries the statement, may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. Some other countries even pushed companies to switch to natural coloring instead. But here in America, you can pick up a can of Sundrop, read front to back, and you won't see a single warning. Everything looks perfectly normal. The problem is, you aren't given the full information to make a choice. Yellow 5 has been the subject of studies for more than a decade, raising concerns about behavioral issues, neurological effects, and rare allergic reactions. The FDA hasn't banned it, but the fact that other developed nations are cautious should tell you this ingredient isn't as harmless as most US consumers believe. Then you look back at your own habits. A soda at lunch, a cold bottle on a hot day, a giant cup from the gas station before a road trip. And you realize that every sip is a sip of something Europe has already flagged as risky. It makes you ask a bigger question. Why can a soda company use a safer, cleaner, more transparent recipe for the international market, yet still stick to the cheaper, good enough formula at home? If they've asked for your loyalty as a customer, shouldn't they show some loyalty to your health? The truth is, when a controversial additive lingers, it's not because it's harmless. It's because there hasn't been enough pressure to remove it from the supply chain. And until American consumers know exactly what's inside every can of soda, the system will keep running like nothing is wrong. Sundrop may be a piece of nostalgia, but it's also a reminder of how your right to know is being traded away for a few extra cents of profit. You don't need to be a chemist to protect your meals, but you do have the right to know what's in your grocery cart and why some things are banned elsewhere, yet still slip through the system here at home. Remember, consumers are not powerless. They're just underinformed. And once you know, you can choose differently.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.